During the medieval period, Christine de Pizan was born in 1364 A.D. in Venice, Italy, to her mother and father, Tommaso di Benvenuto da Pisano. Her father was the primary parental influence on her early upbringing. He was a professor of astrology, a physician, and a counselor of the Republic of Venice. After Christine was born, her father was invited to the court of Charles V, King of France, and accepted an appointment as the king's astrologer, alchemist, and physician. Upon his move to France, he changed his name to Thomas de Pizan. Christine moved to France with her father, which afforded her a high-class upbringing. Though we don't know many specifics about her early childhood education, being brought up around a royal court offered an atmosphere conducive to education. King Charles V of France had vast libraries where Christine was able to educate herself and rediscovered classics, early Renaissance humanism, and languages. When Christine was 15 years old, she married Etienne du Castel, who served King Charles V as a royal secretary to the French court. Together they had 3 children: a daughter who went to Poissy, France, to become a nun at the Dominican Abbey, a son named Jean, and a 3rd child whose name is not known, who died early in childhood. After being married for 10 years while on mission with the king, her husband died from an epidemic, possibly the bubonic plague. This left Christine with 2 children, her mother, and niece to support. In that time, women in Christine's position would either remarry or join the cloister. However, what makes Christine noticeably different than those women of her time was her unusual choice to financially support her family through writing. In Christine's book Vision, she writes about herself, saying, "In remembering my troth and love I had pledged him, I wisely resolved never to have another." Christine de Pizan is credited as the first female author to make a living writing. She began writing poetry and ballads about love, which were recognized by members of the French court who were interested in the idea of a female author. Between 1401 and 1402, Christine branched out of the court circle and immersed herself in public debate concerning women's position in society. She is most noted for the debate on the Romance of the Rose, a literary debate in which she asserts that Jean de Meun's work is misogynistic, degrading women using vulgar terms. In this debate, she argues misogynistic works such as The Romance of the Rose should not be praised because they are contributing nothing to the general or personal good, unlike the elegantly expressed, closer to the truth books written by Aristotle, Seneca, St. Paul, and St. Augustine, which teach how to pursue virtue. Christine's position in the debate on The Romance of the Rose set her on a course of writing to promote equality of women in life and education. This pronounced theme in her writing is what makes many consider her a proto-feminist. A proto-feminist because the term feminist or feminism had not been used yet. Christine's attack on misogyny rests on her belief that it leads to vice and to the denial of the dignity of half of humanity. Christine also went on to write other literary works that centered on the themes of gender equality, the treatment of women in current literature and society, political thoughts on the government of France, and royal education. She was also asked by King Charles V of France's family to write his biography after his death in 1380. Christine de Pizan's most famous works are the Book of the City of Ladies and the Book of the Three Virtues, both published in 1405. Her literary work, The Book of the City of Ladies, is a compilation of women and mythological women from history until her time that served to inspire women and show what these women offered to society. The work also contained advice for women to improve their education and social standing. Her work, The Book of the Three Virtues, strives to teach women of all estates how to cultivate useful qualities in order to counteract the growth of misogyny. The book is set up as conversations between Christine and 3 ladies, Lady Reason, Lady Rectitude, and Lady Justice, discussing the oppression of women in misogynistic language and subject matter male writers employed in their writing. As an adult while writing, she continued her education. Her own path of study consisted of history from the beginnings of the world to her own time, poetry, some scientific learning, but quite significantly, not the obscure sciences whose language she could not understand. It is also believed that she knew rudimentary Latin. However, she never wrote in Latin but in the vernacular French. Christine's lament at her limited education in her book A Vision is explained by both her great love of learning and by the high moral benefit for the individual and society she saw as its direct consequence. She viewed education with such high respect and believed that there is an intrinsic connection between one's path of study and the attainment of pure truth and moral development. She also believed in being educated in literature other than simply Christian doctrine, like the classics, and that education for both sexes was virtuous. Christine's writing in her later years focused on the politics in France. This is evident in her literary work, Book of the Body Politic, in which she addresses various members of government and compares them to a role in the human body, showing how they must work together. Christine retired to the convent at Poissy where her daughter lived. There she composed her last work about Joan of Arc that served as both a feminist piece as well as one to ignite patriotism in France. She died in 1430, able to breach the public and private threshold and use her learning as an instrument to articulate her concerns on the status of women, morality, and the contemporary state of politics and society. In our modern times, gender equality is still something that is fought for internationally, nationally, and locally. UNESCO works to bring gender equity into education because, among the obstacles in the way of women's and girls' ability to exercise their right to participate in, complete, and benefit from education are poverty, geographical isolation, minority status, disability, early marriage and pregnancy, gender-based violence, and traditional attitudes about the status and role of women. In Title IX of the 1972 Education Amendments, no person in the U.S. shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Recently in the United States, not only are we wanting educational equality for women and men, but also those who are of the LGBT community. Since 2012, more than 900 Texas school districts have quietly, and in some cases perhaps unknowingly, added references to sexual orientation and gender identity in their anti-harassment policies. As you can see, we are still struggling and fighting for the same battle Christine de Pizan did in medieval France. She wrote in a variety of literary styles and genres, such as poems, ballads, verse, and books on social and political issues of her time. As Europe's first successful female writer, not only did her fight spread in France, but also her proto-feminism set the stage for a global platform of gender equality in education.